2013, I believe.
That might be right, in the seniors division, and then I think we had 2 top 8s as well. We talked about him earlier.
Yeah, a very, very accomplished player. I'm sure the accomplishments list will come here to correct me. Okay, no, that one not even on there, but that's because he's had so many more other accomplishments that come to Masters. Who cares about the World Championship in seniors, apparently?
Absolutely.
But NAIC top 4, World's top 8 twice, and OCIT top 4. Just yeah, absolutely phenomenal stuff.
And, and we see actually quite a lot of players aging up from the seniors division, doing really well in the Masters division as well. So.
Yeah, and then Jack as well actually was able to get top 32 at Lille last year. So perhaps this is his event. Back here again now on the stage, hoping to maybe perhaps match or even beat that this time.
And we actually get a sneak peek on which decks we're expecting here. We see the Sableye, which indicates this might be, or this will very likely be, a Lost Zone box deck on one side, and there was a Regidagger V-Star on the other side. So these are the matchups we're facing here, and I don't think as a Lost Zone box you really want to face that Regidagger, right?
No, as soon as these actors are flipped over, Jack is probably going to be thinking, well, okay, to be fair, Jack could be thinking, oh, maybe this is going to be a Raging Bolt. That's a little bit more, that's a lot more workable. But no, as soon as Jack sees Kaiwen put down that Regidrago V, he's going to be thinking, uh-oh, I'm in a spot of bother here.
Yeah, typically, like, it's interesting. Starting Pokemon don't always play a huge role. Like, yes, you could have maybe a starting Pokemon that is hard to retreat and is not really useful in the early game that is stuck there. But beyond that, this Teal Mask, as you have mentioned, might indicate 2 decks, Regidrago or the Raging Bolt. So keeping that information away by not benching a Regidrago while setting up, basically, just takes one little information away here.
Yeah.
On the other side, can you quickly talk us through what a Lost Zone box or Lost Zone deck is actually achieving or trying to do?
Yes, of course. So this was, in fact, this was the archetype that got second, of course, just recently in Louisville. And the way this archetype generally tends to work is you are really focused on this Comfey here that Jack just put in the active by retreating the Comfey, by retreating to the Cramorant, rather. So once per turn, when Comfey is in the active, you can take the 2 cards from the top of your deck, you put 1 into your hand, and you put 1 into the Lost Zone. Now, the thing about the Lost Zone is that it's basically like almost like a second discard pile in a way when cards go in there, but you really, really can't get them back, so it is kind of separate in that sort of way. But what the Lost Zone deck plays is a lot of different items and trainers and other things that basically get more powerful the more cards you have in the Lost Zone. So there's Mirage Gate that lets you attach 2 energy from the deck when you have 7 in the Lost Zone, and that's really the key number you want to get to, 7, because then you can basically power up all these one-of tech attackers and you can pick the exact right attacker for the right matchup, hence Lost Zone box, because it's more like a toolbox deck. Yeah,
and Jack finished his turn, gave it back to Kaiwen, who has now shown as a Hoot Hoot here. I talked about this during the intro this morning, that Hoot Hoot is a great addition to both, basically any deck that plays Ogre upon Teal Mask, because that Terra feature of the Pokemon basically allows you to use the Jewel Seeker later on.
Hold on, Barrage, I need to point out something. So Kaiwen played an INO after doing a Teal Dance, and then got basically nothing. It was forced to bench a Hoot Hoot attached to the active and then just pass. No Regidrago V.
Yeah, that is huge, actually. You want the Regidrago early. Let me talk about the Regidrago deck just quickly. You have your main attacker, which is the Regidrago V-Star.
Yes.
For 2 grass energy and 1 fire energy, you can copy any dragon attack from a Pokemon in your discard pile. So the goal is get your dragon Pokemon in discard pile and then use Apex Dragon to basically copy any of those attacks. And similarly to Lost Zone box, where you can pick which attacker depending on the matchup, Regidrago V-Star allows you to pick, depending on the matchup, which attack you want to use.
Yeah, and the key attacker that you normally want to copy is Dragapult EX, which is, of course, its own deck in its own right. But this Regidrago V-Star deck opts to instead use that same Phantom Dive just by copying it with Regidrago V-Star from the discard pile instead. But then you also have Giratina V-Star, which lets you do 280 damage by just Lost Zoning 2 energy attached to yourself. And then to finish up, you have that Kyurem, of course, which has Trifrost, 110 damage to 3 different Pokemon.
Yeah, when I said earlier, as a Lost Box deck, you don't want to face those Regidragos, it's exactly because of this Kyurem.
Yeah, the Kyurem is absolutely devastating.
Plasma Base ability allows you basically to attack for 1 colorless if your opponent has any trainer card with the name Colress in his discard pile. And as we've seen, Colress was just used, so it's in the discard pile, so it basically allows the Kyurem to not only be it can be an attacker itself suddenly as well, because normally you don't have 5 energies ready, but in this
Speaking
case,
of which,
yep, it becomes active and it can shoot for free 110 damage. But there's some disagreement here.
Hold on.
Second.
It should be fine, right? Is that just No, I'm not sure what happened there, but I think there was just a debate over whether he could switch the energy that was being discarded. But yeah, exactly like you were saying, like against the Lost Zone decks, you get almost like double value, right? Because you can just attack with the Kyurem itself with that ability, as you mentioned. Suddenly it costs, because the normal attack cost for the Kyurem is 5 energy, and it holds, yeah, there you go, 2 waters, 2 metal, and a colorless. But
almost impossible to set up.
Yeah, but suddenly with that Plasma Bane ability, with the Colress's experiment in Jack's discard pile, that is a card with Colress in the name, and it costs 1 colorless energy, and you're suddenly doing a lot of damage. You're taking 3 prize cards for just 1 energy card.
Absolutely, and you might be thinking, well, yeah, you can also use that attack, of course, once actually that Kyurem gets knocked out. If, but in the meantime, you set up your Regidrago V-Star, you can use that attack over and over again. But keep in mind, the side effect of Triforce is that you have to discard all the energy attached. Yes. Now, as a Kyurem, with only the cost of 1 colorless energy, you discard 1 single energy, and you can go again next turn. With Regidrago V-Star, it's a little bit more difficult because you need to basically discard all 3 energies.
Yeah, and that's why usually when you're playing against the other matchups, Kyurem is your finisher, right? You usually finish a game by doing a Triforce with the Apex Dragon on the Regidrago V-Star, knock out 3 things, job's good. But here, because Jack has played that Chorus's experiment, Kaiwen can just get that value really early from the Kyurem with just the 1 energy, and then just clean up by using it again, by, as you just mentioned, copying the attack with the Regidrago V-Star. So you're able to do it twice while still not really putting yourself behind, which is really, really strong, and is exactly why, if you're Jack, this is the last deck you want to face against.
Exactly, and I think it's a testament of how strong this matchup is, because like we saw the start of the game, it was 1 Ogerpon and a Hoothoot, and we're like, oh my god, he has to pass, and it's like, it's gone there, right? But now it was just a single, he almost like lured him into playing that Colress to be like, hey, how about you activate my Kyurem and I go from there.
And there's a good chance as well that based on what Kaiwen benched, Jack had no idea that Kyurem was even going to be a threat, because there wasn't anything too obviously in the, I guess, there was the fire energy attached, I guess.
Energy, yeah.
That might have given it away, but even so, you had to play Chorus's experiment. You need to get those cards in the Lost Zone. You need to activate your own power from your deck. So it's kind of like taking the bait, but you kind of always had to do it regardless.
Yeah, and of course, it was also lucky that Kaiwen had both Kyurem and an energy ready to just take that turn from there. Because otherwise, Jack could also thinking, hey, you're so far behind, how about I set up my board and then I get to attack early on.
But here we go, though. Trifrost, 110, 110, 110. That is 3 for 1 KO on 2 Comfeys and a Cramorant, so for Kaiwen to take an enormous lead early on in the game.
Yeah, on the other side, once you have used 1 Colorist, you might as well use the second one to increase your Lost Zone counter, because now it no longer matters, I suppose, and that's exactly what we're seeing here, which will get the Lost Zone count up to 6, one step away from basically activating the Mirage Gate, which is also just 1 card that he picked up here. Maybe he has a Lost Vacuum.
Yeah, there are a couple of Lost Vacuums in the deck, yeah.
That could help, because the Comfies are off the field.
Yeah, I think the bigger problem for Jack is that there isn't that really any number of like great attackers to respond with. I mean, there's these Lost Zone Toolbox decks usually play a variety of different attackers. They try to tailor their attacking, force for whatever they think is most likely to be present in the metagame. So Jack, for example, was playing Radiant Greninja, Roaring Moon, Iron Thorns EX, Blood Moonless Lunar EX, Sableye, Cramorant, but only playing 1 of each. So it's about finding them at the right time with this disrupted setup. Now, of note, Jack, unlike, we've seen some Lost Zone Toolbox decks being like a little bit brave and actually opting to go with not playing Manaphy. Jack is playing Manaphy, so it's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to find it before that Trifrost came in.
Absolutely, and I think at this point you might as well not play the Manaphy anymore, because it doesn't give you the value that you really need. I was wondering, some Lost Zone box also play Iron Hands, right?
Yes, but not this one.
Not this one, so that's a very interesting choice as well here, because that could have been a potential attacker that knocks out 1 prizers, like potentially that Kyurem or that Hoothoot, and take out 2 prizes at a time.
Yeah, I think it is obviously a great choice. One of the problems with Iron Hands is that it does have a very hefty attack cost, so you usually need 2 Mirage Gates in order to get it going. In theory, with Iron Thorns, you only need 1, because you can just attach, with the way the energy cost works, you can attach 1 from hand and then Mirage Gate the other time to get it going, and of course it shuts down a lot of different decks. We saw all the way back at the North American Internationals, Iron Thorns used to great success in the hands of Andrew Hedrick, and so similar kind of thing going on there.
Yeah, and we see 2 Mirage Gates being used here, powering up the Roaring Moon. How could I forget Roaring Moon, of course. And for 3 energies, it has 2 attacks. The first one, Frenzy Gouging, you probably wouldn't want to use that on a single prizer here, because you wouldn't need it, I suppose. On the other hand, you also have that Calamity Storm, which does...
Oh, hold on, the Calamity Storm, but on that exact note, this is going to be a very, very strong turn from Jack because the Prime Catcher is in hand. There's only one Regidrago V on the bench. Prime Catcher comes in, switching into the Roaring Moon, and then Calamity Storm will be able to discard this Temple of Sinnoh and knock out the only Regidrago that Kaiwen has.
Yeah, I was just going to say Calamity Storm kind of depends on having a Stadium in play to do extra damage, but then the math just works out perfectly. 220 damage, pick up the one Regidrago V. There's a second one in hand that he will probably play down now, but it just postpones a little bit the Regidrago V-Star.
And with that, it makes sense that Jack did put down the Mana Fee because he was able to find it, and if you're not going for the Kyurem, then you kind of do need to go for the Regidrago instead. Now that Kyurem has kind of been very much neutered. Of course, you can still do 110 to the active, but it's not really what you want to be doing, right? So that Mana Fee putting in really good protection from any future Kyurem shenanigans. Yeah,
Mana Fee has been a great card. We have recently seen less and less usage because of that Cursed Blast ability that just can pick it out and like completely negate that whole effect, basically. But that won't play a role here in this matchup. So Mana Fee is kind of safe on the bench and will prevent any further snipes.
And I think that's exactly why Jack chose to play it, because yes, it isn't that useful in all the other matchups, but in the one matchup where you want it the most, where you're scared of Kyurem, it is useful because, I mean, unless there's some crazy technique going on, Regidrago lists don't usually tend to play the Dusknoir line, so you can be pretty confident that your Mana Fee is going to be putting in the work to stop that Triforce triple knockout.
So we have seen the Prime Catcher for the first Gust effect, and the question is, could he, to any effect, maybe have a second, maybe a boss that could pick up the...
There is one boss's orders in the list, yeah.
Okay, that could be a potential play, of course, to pick out the second Regidrago, but that would depend on having a Stadium in place. So we'd have to find potentially that Pokestop or rely on Kaiwen to play another Stadium card here.
Oh, but hold on a second. I'm fairly sure if Kaiwen can put this together, Roaring Moon EX is weak to grass. So with the amount of energy on the Roaring Moon and with the amount that you need on the Ogerpon to power it up anyway, this would be a knockout on the Roaring Moon EX.
Yeah, I'm just double checking. Has he attached for turn yet? Do we have any energy?
Not according to our graphic at least, but it's yeah, no, I don't believe he has. I think he's just debating about how the best way to approach this is.
But of course, he also needs a grass energy, and I think I don't see any in hand.
No, yeah, that's the problem. It is, of course, that attack cost on the Teal Mask Ogerpon is free grass. You can't get away with like one colorless to power it up the last little bit of the way. So
see one on the active, sorry, two on the active, one on the bench, and one was discarded earlier with Kyurem's Triforce attack. Yeah. So let's look through the deck. There's one grass energy, it's two grass energies left.
Yeah. Oh, this will be completely fine. You can get the knocked out with the Ultra Ball, and of course with the, as you mentioned earlier, with that Teal Mask Ogerpon in play, it is of course a Terra Pokemon. That Jewel Seeker could come in and search the Earthen Vessel to search the grass energy to put it all together.
It's really interesting. With the Jewel Seeker, of course, it might also make sense to play. We've just seen the Cologne negating that ability as well. Wait, but however, it would mean that you would need to get Mana Fee in the active position.
Yes, which is, I mean, that will probably be a little bit trickier because I'm not sure if there's any kind of... Oh, wait, the Prime Catcher is in hand, so you could do it in theory.
Yep.
If you wanted to, but it might be more worth it to just... Oh, no, he's going for it. Yeah,
exactly what he's doing, evolving, finding that Cologne, negating the ability.
Wow.
The only problem, I mean, you're still in great spot, is you only take out 2 knockouts here.
Yeah, but I think that's fine, right? You can just, what you can do here, which will work out really well, yeah, you play the Cologne, you take out the Mana Fee, and this is, of course, the one thing that you're worried about, even if you are playing Mana Fee in Lost Zone box, that, you know, the Regidrago decks can sometimes come prepared with this Counseling Cologne to make the Kyurem still work anyway. But what you can do is take care of the Mana Fee and the Comfey, and you can put 110 on this Roaring Moon EX, and that neuters the Frenzied Gouging.
Yep, that is actually a very smart play because then it would do 200 damage to itself and basically knock itself out. On the same side, I really love how Kaiwen goes beyond, I'll have a great turn. He's already thinking ahead and setting up his next turn as well. You saw the energy switch, basically powering up that Ogerpon, and for any future turn, he will just be ready to attack going from there.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, the fact that Kaiwen has set this all up, and bear in mind, there's not been a single Regidrago V-Star put into play. That's like the namesake of this deck. But Kaiwen has literally just put in all the work with this one Kyurem and then loading up the Teal Mask Ogerpon EXs on the bench to just get ready for the future. He's such a strong deck.
Yeah, against the Lost Zone box, it almost looks like a Kyurem deck, if you ask me. But yeah, 110. Checking that the Cologne was used.
It's and also checking the discard to decide what Kaiwen actually wants to target here, because yeah, if you probably want to take the double knockout, and yeah, just going to put the 110 on the Roaring Moon EX, and yeah, now, of course, you can't use that Frenzied Gouging attack. Frenzied Gouging is one of the biggest assets of Roaring Moon EX. The fact that it's a guaranteed, if you can get this active with the energy, it can knock anything out, is really, really good. But as you mentioned already, Barish, when it does that, it does do 200 damage to itself. So now with that 110 already on it, if you do Frenzied Gouging, you knock yourself out and lose the game.
Absolutely, and I'm trying to look for a way to Jack to come back into this game. Of course, his prime target would be that loaded up Ogerpon on the bench. Knock that out, and then the Kaiwen is left with one Ogerpon that only has one grass energy at the moment. However, he would then be one single energy retrieval away from winning the game, getting 2 grass energy back in hand, 1 from the ability, 1 manual, and he would have 3 grass energies again to KO that.
Yeah. So
we see that he actually pulls out a second attacker as well, which is especially good in the end game here.
Yes.
When the opponent's down to 1 price.
Yeah, the Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, of course, so with the ability, does attack for 1 colorless energy less for every prize card. But there's the boss's orders just to bring up the Roaring Moon EX, take the KO with the Teal Mask Ogerpon, and we'll be going to game 2. Absolutely.
That was played in a great fashion, especially when you have the matchup and you can pull it out like this in the first game and just win. It's a great position to be for Kaiwen, of course, winning the first game and being very confident going into this matchup for the next round as well. So now, I mean, obviously after this first game, Jack now has confirmation that this is a Regidrago V-Star, and maybe we'll see the mana feel a little bit early on.
Yeah, let's take a quick look back at that game just to see how not the Regidrago deck, the Kyurem deck just basically devastated Jack's field. All it took was Jack playing 1 Chorus Experiments, and then sure, Jack was able to use the Prime Catcher, was able to bring up the Regidrago V before it could evolve, so that you get the KO with the Calamity Storm, but then Kaiwen, just after piecing it all together, finds the means to just attack with the Kyurem again, with the cancelling clone to shut off the mana fee and just completely devastate Jack's board. Honestly, it feels like Jack almost had no shot in that game. He tried his best, he played his absolute heart out, but this is such a tough matchup for the Lost Zone box deck.
I mean, yeah, Kaiwen had what looked like a bad start, but he has all cards ready to, once the Colress is played, to just play the Kyurem down and go from there. I think the game would have looked completely different if Kaiwen didn't have access to that attack, because he had no Regidrago ready, so he couldn't have copied that attack. He actually needed that card in his hand, right? So, I mean, yeah, with an Ultra Wall, he could have pulled it out potentially, but unless you actually have it ready in that turn, it would have been a more open game, I suppose.
Yeah, it really would have done. Now, the setup for game 2 is happening currently. Jack has put out his prizes. Kaiwen had a mulligan, so Jack will be able to start the game with an extra card. Let's see if Kaiwen's able to find his way into a basic Kia. Of course, so in the Pokemon trading card game, for those who don't know, if you don't have a basic Pokemon in your opening hand, you have to show your opponent your hand, shuffle it all back into the deck again, and then draw another fresh hand of 7 cards until you find a basic Pokemon.
Yeah, and we're ready to kick off game 2. Jack, as the loser of the first game, decided to go first here and uses that. He's doing a heavy ball to actually go for his prizes. Price check especially in this matchup. Doesn't see any basic Pokemon, so can't pick anything out. I don't think I saw any really important resource there either, so I think Jack isn't too upset by what he has seen in the prizes.
Yeah, 2 Super Rod isn't great. It's a very important card, especially because you cycle through the deck a lot and you want to get the energies back and you want to be able to Mirage Gate them, but no, nothing too crazy. And none of your one-of attackers either, which is something you've got to be feeling pretty happy about. Now, here is...
So now my question to you is, going into the second game, do you just try to set up without Colress?
I mean, in an ideal world, yeah, you would. And I think that's probably why Jack is going aggressive with the double Comfey here. No point in going for the mana fee right now. You know that Kaiwen won't be able to attack early with it unless you put a Chorus in a discard pile, and you can't even do that because you're going first, you can't play a supporter. So instead, just like in game 1, we see the retreat of the Cameron into the Comfey, Flower selecting, finds a Dark Energy, and I didn't quite see what the other card was. I'm sure we'll get a look at it in a bit.
Get a reveal in a second.
Yes, it was a Lost Vacuum, so does decide to keep the Dark Energy, which makes sense. We saw how vital the attacking of Roaring Moon was, but also, yeah, that would have been a way to maybe get more cards in the Lost Zone about Chorus' experiment.
Absolutely. We saw how important the Roaring Moon was, so I loved keeping that darkness energy here. But let's look into the second turn.
Although that was an incredible Precious Research from Kaiwen. He's able to discard a Giratina V-Star and I think a Dragapult as well, so the attacks you want to copy all going away.
And you have a Regidrago in hand, you have Grass Energy, you have Fire Energy. You can basically set up your board quite well.
Another
second one as well. So you're not risking losing any of these in the next turn, basically.
Contrast here is stark. An amazing turn one here from Kaiwen as he's able to get 2 Regidrago down. So even if Jack has the absolutely insane turn and is able to put together a big knockout, still will have at least 1 Regidrago available. But look, Jack is going to go for the chorus again.
I guess at this point he has no other choice. He has to get his count up, and I guess what we could potentially expect to see here is that he might as well play Manaphy down now that he has played a Comfy. So the Lost Zone count is up to 3. Pulls out more cards into his hand, has Flower Select ready as well.
But this is a big risk because Jack has no way to get Manaphy guaranteed. So if he doesn't find this off of this cover, there's the Buddy Poffin though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
If he didn't find that, he would be in very, very big trouble.
Especially if he doesn't find any other Pokemon, because then all 3 could have been knocked out.
It would, just straight up lost the game.
Yeah, we don't see the Kyurem hitting the discard pile just yet. I'm trying to figure out what exactly we have beyond the Giratina, what was discarded there.
It was a Dragapult, I saw that much, and I think it was a bunch of stuff. I think it was more just attackers to copy, actually.
Yep. So 2 more. We have the rescue board, which will allow you to... Wait, no, the manual retreat was last turn, so you can actually retreat here and go for a second Flower Select as well.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, the rescue board reduces the retreat cost of the Pokemon it's attached to by 1, or if it's on 30 HP remaining or less, it actually retreats for free. So that's all the extra effect it gets. But most of the time, it's just used for the reduce by 1 effect on something like Comfey, so you can just retreat it for free.
But he actually chooses to go, because his Lost Zone count is up to 4, he chooses to attack here. I guess he doesn't have a second way to retreat, so beyond that Prime Catcher, so he chooses to place 110 damage instead of trying to get a second.
And this is still completely fine, right? I mean, 110 twice, that will knock out a Teal Mask Ogre EX, so this is your go-to early attacker in the Lost Zone box deck. Always has been, and it probably will be until it rotates, because being able to, with that emergency provisions ability, lost provisions ability, able to attack for no energy as long as you have 4 more cards in the Lost Zone, which Jack has, so yes.
Yeah, quick math here. If he attaches 3 grass energy, he would do 30 plus another 90. There would be 120 to pick out the knockout here, right?
Yeah, that will do it. I'm sure, though, that in an ideal world, Kaiwen...
That's not the attack you want to go
No, exactly. You want to be... if you can't go for the Kyurem, something else that really is good to copy still against Lost Zone box decks is, of course, that Dragapult attack. The Phantom Dive, you carry the active, you put 60 somewhere, that sets up nice bench damage for later on.
Yep, so that's obvious and or an option here as well. I see that he picked out 2 grass energy, but yeah, even if you want to attack with Regidrago Vista, you already have the 1 fire energy you need. You can manually attach the second one. You can use Ogerpon's ability to attach a 1, and you would have. It relies, however, on actually attacking with that. Sorry, to get a energy switch.
Yes.
To get the Regidrago Vista in play.
And I think for sure he wants to be able to do a bunch of teal dances here just to draw more cards. We do see there a Temple of Sinnoh. Not really a relevant card in this matchup. Jack isn't playing any special energy, as far as I'm aware. I think just looking for the decks here. I mean,
it's 2 items. I mean, it's interesting. He had the Tool Jammer in hand earlier. Could have played that. The Gemma Stadium, basically, to prevent the retreat, I suppose, from the rescue board. But he chooses not to play that because it also doesn't activate, I suppose, the extra damage for that.
Oh, hold on. I do believe I see from that Ino that Kaiwen just played, there's the Kyurem.
Kyurem is ready, of course. The question is, I mean, you would always in this matchup attack with it first, and then once it gets knocked out, you can then... The only problem is if you actually play it down, attack with it, and it's not in the discard pile, then you wouldn't be able to copy it with your
yeah, exactly. That's something you have to be a little bit careful of. So essentially, in a way, Jack could play around the Kyurem by not knocking it out. But then again, you wouldn't want to do that because then Kaiwen could just attach 1 energy to it and keep using it. So it's not a great feeling either way. Now, Kaiwen is very close to being able to pull off something pretty good here. Kyurem into the active. Is there an energy switch in hand?
I don't see one. Maybe he's just saying, you're not knocking me out this turn.
Yeah, because unfortunately Kaiwen did attach manually before going for this, so like there's no
attach to the Regidrago, the grass energy, right? So you might just think like, I might have to buy an extra turn and pass here.
Pass, okay.
You're currently looking at lost provisions 110 damage here.
Yeah.
That wouldn't knock it out yet, so you would have to get a second attacker ready to take out the Kyurem, and then it would be discarded. and you could evolve and go from there.
Yeah, but a bit of an unfortunate miss there for Kaiwen. There's one energy switch, and I do believe... Oh, no, I guess to be fair, you would have needed to bring up the Mana Fee as well, because the Cancelling Cologne is in hand, but you don't have a way to bring the Mana Fee active to negate its ability with the Cancelling Cologne. So, yeah, Kaiwen a few pieces short of being able to pull off a crazy turn, but let's go back over to Jack here and see what he can pull off. A couple more flower selectings happening. There goes a switch cart into the Lost Zone. 2 flower selectings used so far this turn. We're up to 6 in the Lost Zone right now, so just one more, and that Mirage Gate will be online. But can he get there? There is a switch in hand, I see. He's already retreated this turn, so it has to be more switching cards if he wants to get there.
I suppose.
He's got enough to do it. I think he's just debating how he wants to... He's trying to map out his turn. This is very, very key when you're playing the Lost Zone Toolbox deck, because your sort of map of options is so wide open, you need to know exactly the right way to go about it. But it looks like it's just going to be a switch into the Cramorant and spit innocently instead. Yeah,
he had the option to increase the Lost Zone counter, but then I don't think he had access to any extra. I see one Mirage Gate, but he just didn't have all the tools to get a second attack already. So yes, the 110 damage for free basically is really nice. It's sticking on the board, but also it doesn't really get you anywhere at this point. And I guess if it sticks like this, then eventually Sableye could come in and pick out those knockouts, but is that really what you go for?
I mean, if needs a must, right? That's what you'll go for that. But looks like Kaiwen actually, drew into the energy switch, but had the Ultra ready to go into hand, so does now have access to that Regidrago V-Star, and is that we're going to see the Legacy Star ability. This is the V-Star power on the Regidrago V-Star. Discard the top 7 cards of your deck, and then look through your whole discard pile and take any 2 cards you want. One of them is going to be that Boss's Orders that was just discarded from the Legacy Star, and then one more card to boot. So this is going to be a very, very devastating turn from Kaiwen. He's
eyeing at a Super Rod to potentially get more energies back into his deck, I suppose, because there were quite some discarded there as well. So he's confirming which 2 cards he's picking. Taking the boss, has the Cologne in hand.
Yeah, so, and we know that there's an energy switch ready to switch the energy over to the Kyurem so that it can attack. Yeah, this is a phenomenal turn from Kaiwen, my goodness.
Another free prize and one. We love to talk about free prize turns. It typically doesn't involve Triforce, but here it's just too strong.
It's too strong, they're devastating. And very note how Kaiwen did it here. Didn't actually knock out the Mana Fee, just knocked out the free Comfey instead, because Kaiwen knows that's how Jack is going to dig further into his deck and set up more. You don't mind that this Mana Fee is still in the active and it's still going to be around. Kyurem has done its job. You can just clean up the rest of the game with your Regidrago V-Star. Like, 1 Trifrost is more than enough.
Yeah, you might be thinking, is there any way to actually use the damage on the board and take knockouts? And I was looking at the Radiant Greninja, which could technically do 90 damage twice here, but it just 10 damage short of picking up the Ogerpon on the bench.
110 damage on it already.
Yeah, and on top of that, before I forget, Terra Pokemon actually immune to damage while they're on the bench.
That as well,
That is not an option. That was a lesson that I had to learn while trying out Radiant Greninja myself, and I was like, wait a second, 2 Curse Blasts and like Moonlight Shuriken, 2 knockouts, and I was like, dip, dip, 0 damage twice.
Well, that's a lesson you won't forget anytime soon. You do that mistake once, and then hopefully you don't do it again. So, like you mentioned last game, Barish, so there is another Chorus Experiment in hand. At this point, there's one in the discard pile already, so you don't mind playing a second one. You won't trigger Plasma Bane any more than you already have. So let's dig further into that. Oh, I do see some vital cards here. We do see another Chorus Experiment, but also that Prime Catcher and that Roaring Moon EX.
I think these are 2 like almost must picks here, and then the question is, what is your 3rd card? Can you afford to put more energies into the Lost Zone? However, I think the Lightning Energy, is that how relevant is the... I don't think you're attacking with Iron Force either, so...
No, not in this matchup.
So you might be able to afford to...
I mean, it is kind of nice that you can shut off Teal Dance, but it's not the end of the world if you give your opponent that. There are better attackers to use for Jack in this matchup. But I think the tricky thing for Jack here is going to be just dealing with this Regidrago V-Star. So you can KO it with the Roaring Moon EX, but you would need to use Frenzy Gouging. And if you do that, if Jack can set up another Regidrago V-Star, you can just win the game by doing a Phantom Dive on something on the bench, if you can bring it to the active, and then 30 damage from the Phantom Dive onto the bench Roaring Moon EX to KO it.
Yeah, there could be options here, absolutely. He has used Flower Select, has used Greninja's ability as well. That's why the Lightning Energy was so important, because you could actually discard it, concealed cards, pick up 2 more cards. So maybe it was worth keeping that and discarding. I think it was Super Rod and Colorless Experiment that he discarded off the last Colorless Experiment.
To the Lost Zone, yeah.
To the Lost Zone, yeah. And now Super Rod is being played, 2 energies and a Comfey going back into the deck, and Nestball immediately played to bench that.
Yes. So really just showing how vital it was that Kaiwen targeted all 3 of the Comfeys. Jack needs more of these to just dig further into the deck, and also now you are only 1 Lost Zone card away from being able to use, of course, that Sableye with Lost Mine. Now, unlike with Radiant Greninja, Lost Mine with Sableye, you can actually get around the Terra effect because it places damage counters, it doesn't do damage, so that does work on bench Terra Pokemon. And
that would actually be a knockout, right? 110 plus 10 damage counters, that's 210, exactly enough to pick out the knockout. So that could actually come into play here.
Yeah, that could work out very, very well.
Contact going up to 10 now. I think it's an easy pick for that Nest Ball, and you pick up the Darkness Energy.
Yeah, but it looks like it's going to be the Roaring Moon this time. So I think, yeah, it's going to be Mirage Gate, and then attaching 2 energies there. You've got the Dark in hand, so you go Dark Lightning, Prime Catcher, I guess. So you don't have a Stadium in play, so if you want to take a knockout, you need to use Frenzied Gouging. Or, I guess you could also bring up the Teal Mask Ogerpon, just do 100 to it, the one with 110 damage on it. That would be an exact knockout as well. Be interesting to see what he goes for here, but I think, yeah, it's
I think it makes sense to take out the 2 remaining energies on the board as well. You do Frenzied Gouging, do 200 damage to yourself, or in the same point, if he manages to attack with the Ogerpon Teal Mask, it would be a knockout anyway, so that 200 damage doesn't matter too much.
So now it is just going to be, can Kaiwen put together another Regidrago V-Star, along with the energy required, and a Gusting card to bring up something from the bench and Phantom Dive for the win. Because if he can put it all together, he will win this game, but it is still quite a bit to ask for, so let's see if he can do it.
Now, it might actually haunt him that he didn't pick out the knockout of the Manaphy earlier. Now, you can say with the Super Rod and the Nest Balls, it would have been back in play anyway, but he has chosen to pick out 2 free Comfies, leave the Manaphy, so Manaphy is still on the bench now and would prevent the Triforce. So you would need another Gust and another Cologne to actually use Triforce to finish up this game.
Yeah, and if you hadn't used Legacy Star already, that could have been a way to get back the Cologne, but not gonna happen here, unfortunately, for Kaiwen. Does have the Ultra Balls, and that's 1 piece there ready to go. Can find the Regidrago V-Star off of this, or even better, that Pheasantipity X, of course, can flip the script since Kaiwen did have a Pokemon knocked out during the last turn. We'll be able to draw 3 cards. Maybe this can find him the combo pieces that he needs.
Yeah, we haven't actually seen too much flip the script on stream yet, so yeah, for anyone, if in the previous opponent's turn, a Pokemon was knocked out by damage of an attack, right?
Yes.
Then you actually get to pick 3 extra cards by activating.
Actually, no, it's just if a Pokemon was knocked out.
By an attack?
No, not by an attack. Like, if one of your things get knocked out by Dusknoir, you can still use Flip the Script.
What I was thinking of was one interaction that came up recently where if Poison takes out in between turns, then it doesn't count.
Because it specifically says if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn, and of course, Pokemon checkup with effects is between turns. So yeah, that's probably what you're thinking of.
All right, all the energy off the board. So to actually pull off an attack, you would have, he needs a fire energy, he needs 2 grass energy, and he needs 2 energy switch.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask for. It's not impossible, but it's definitely, these 3 cards from Flip the Script are going to be very vital. We do see, though, yeah, there's some Teal Dances coming in first. There's a fire energy as well, that's a really good find. There's a Dragapult EX, well, that doesn't matter, you already have in discard pile. Flip the Script, 3 cards. Is that a research? Wait, I think he's got it! There's an energy switch in hand. I think you just need 1 more energy switch and a way to bring something else to the active, I think.
I mean, worst case, even if you don't finish up the game right, you still have 1 manual attachment, and you can try first just to pick up the active Pokemon as well and go down to 1 prize.
You're completely fine with that. It is going to be very, very hard for Jack to take a 4 prize turn. In fact, I'm not even sure if it's even possible, especially because you can maybe do it with Radiant Greninja, but as you already mentioned, doesn't really work in terms of the Terra Pokemon, or the Terra factor on the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX. And also, even with Sableye, you won't quite get there. You can knock out the Kyurem and the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX, but that will still make you a little bit short. You have 3 prizes, Jack needs 4. Yeah,
it's actually 12 damage counters, right?
Yes, it is.
10 you need for the Ogerpon, 2 extra to finish up that...
the Kyurem, yeah, it's exactly enough for the double knockout.
Yep. But that's only 3 prizes. So let's see how that...
Across the active, I like it.
And I feel like Kaiwen has all the tools to finish this up in the next turn, so he basically tells Jack, well, you need to actually pull out quite a combo to get back into this game.
And there needs to be some kind of disruption going on as well. Now, looking through Jack's list, there is 1 Roxanne, so if there's any turn where you want to play that, it's this turn. You really want to make sure that Kaiwen is working with as few cards as possible to put this together. But it's just going to be the
won't be happening this turn. We were still looking for 1 Psychic Energy, actually. There it is for to activate the Sableye. But that, without some disruption, that might not be enough. You take 3 prizes, but then he has 1 Regidrago with already... Interesting. How does he set up his attack on next turn? He has a fire energy in hand. He would need one more energy switch.
Yeah, you just need an energy switch. That's like literally the only card you're missing. And I think there is research in hand, so digging for it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but you only need one prize. So as long as you can get free energy onto the Regidrago V-Star, you will win the game. And yeah, the hand size being as it is for Kaiwen is very unfortunate for Jack, because it makes it very, very hard to stop Kaiwen from being able to pull it off. He doesn't need a lot.
I feel like these games, in this format currently, it's so fast that Sableye doesn't really have a lot of time to actually shine and pick out knockouts. This might be the first time in a while that I actually see Sableye in action. It is a perfect setup here where it takes out 2 knockouts, but it might be a little bit too late.
Well, I mean, that's one of the exact reasons why we haven't seen the Lost Zone Toolbox deck see as much play. It was a big surprise to everyone when it got second at Louisville, but I think that was preying on a certain kind of a metagame and preying on specifically on the fact that Regidrago V-Star was being played less. But here we see why Regidrago V-Star makes the Lost Zone box be played less, because, well, I mean, the matchup speaks for itself, but you've seen it here clear as crystal.
I mean, Kaiwen must be pumped. He's over in Lille. Been put on stream and then opens his hand and says, well, I'm playing a Lost Zone box deck. This is exactly what I want here. Yeah. It's of course not an auto win.
No, it's absolutely not. And like in game 1 as well, I think fair play to Jack. He has played his absolute heart out. He's done his best to set things up the way he can. It's just a tough matchup.
Yeah.
And
is there any way around is there any reason not to take both knockouts out? Because I see Jack considering.
So I guess it would be to force another card to switch out the Kyurem into the Regidrago. That would be the main reason why. But here we go. Card drawn for Kaiwen. Let's see. There's the Fire Energy in hand.
Energy switch.
Oh, yeah, that will do it. Yeah, the energy switch is there in hand, so you can get all the energy onto the Regidrago V-Star, just KO anything on the Jack's bench, and Kaiwen takes game 2 and takes the match here at our feature match.
That was a huge last turn. We actually missed the energy switch in hand. We're thinking about the research to potentially grab that out of the deck, but Kaiwen already had all pieces, playing that up perfectly, showing his opponent, listen, I have everything I need. Here's the energy switch, and I have a prime catcher. I can KO anything on your bench. That's just game.
Yeah, that absolutely is game. And again, a fearsome demonstration of the power of Regidrago V-Star, and especially of that Kyurem with the Plasma Bane ability. Just those poor Complays never stood a chance.
Yeah, I mean, in prior formats, we saw Cologne used before, typically with raiding Greninja, where you gust up the Manaphy and then use the Cologne, and then you can KO 2 like Comfies on the bench. It's really interesting to see that in this combination as well, with the Triforce and the Gust and then Cologne, you actually get 3 knockouts here as well.
Yeah, you do, and I think that's why as well the Regidrago decks have incorporated the cancelling Cologne, because they know that even against the favorable matchup like Lost Zone usually is, if you don't have that cancelling Cologne available, Manaphy can put you in a spot of bother. So just have that one-off tech in there. It just makes that your Kyurem so much more potentially devastating, because I imagine that some Regidrago players might be thinking, you know what, Manaphy sees less play right now, maybe I don't even need to bother with the cancelling Cologne, but Kaiwen has, and it's clearly paid off in spades here.
And you might be thinking it's a situational card, but it's just a testament of the drawing power that Regidrago has, right? With your researches, you can get access to those. With the V-Star power as well, discarding 7, getting it potentially out of the discards back into your hand. You have so much room and so much drawing power to get the cards you need when you need them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look back at the game and just do a quick little replay to see sort of the key moments really of not just the game, but the whole match. So yeah, that first Kyurem coming in clutch as Kaiwen not working with much of anything, but just had the Kyurem, had the energy, and then was able to take 3 knockouts straight away. Jack was able to respond with the Roaring Moon, but then Kaiwen just able to Trifrost again. We had all the setup in hand to do the play with the cancelling Cologne and just with the energy in hand, and then yeah, KO the Manaphy and the Comfey, 110 on the Roaring Moon EX just to make sure that Frenzy Gouging can't do any shenanigans, and that was really all she wrote. Jack didn't really have a chance from there.
Yeah, it was kind of checkmate at that point. He tried to come back with the Blood Moon with Luna, but it just wasn't enough. And in the second game, it was a similar story. We saw a little bit of more Manaphy action, but with the cancelling Cologne, he just managed to get those knockouts as well. Yeah,
so yeah, the Cramorant coming in does softening up both the Teal Mask Gogapon EX and the Kyurem, but then eventually Kaiwen able to piece it together. Found the boss's orders off the Legacy Star. That was the real key there, the dig from that Legacy Star ability. So had the boss orders and cancelling Cologne to do that devastating Trifrost again. And from there, Jack was just never really able to recover. Like, it was just too much damage, too much board disruption too quickly. And yeah, another Trifrost there. Just on the active, it was just enough to KO the already softened up Roaring Moon from the Frenzied Gouging. And then all it took right there at the end was sure, Jack was able to mount the counterattack, was able to get the Sableye into the active, did get the double KO there, but then Kaiwen just had all the pieces ready in hand, had the Fire Energy, had the Energy Switch, had the Flying Catcher.
Now I see why we missed the Energy Switch. It was actually a top deck that he put on top of his cards that were face down.